Today we are going to make a sunflower welcome door swag. You'll find the full materials list below in the description of this video. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Let's dive in. We're going to be using a 28-inch long evergreen base, 2 rolls of 10-inch Deco Mesh, the burlap colored and the black and white check. I've got a boatload of different 1.5 and 2.5 inch wired ribbon that are in neutrals, yellows, and black and whites. I've got this super cute welcome sign that we may or may not use. Lots of different greenery, and of course, several pretty large, there's the sunflower compared to my hand, sunflowers to add in. Of course, you're also going to need a good pair of scissors, your hot glue gun, and your snips. So go ahead and get your glue gun plugged in, friends. For those of you that are not new to my channel, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here to create with me. And of course, for all the new Stillwaters folks, welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Stillwaters Wreath Designs is all about wreath and door swag step-by-step tutorials, and new tutorials upload every single week. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so that you're notified every time we've got some new tutorials for you. What's going on, friends? How is everyone? So we're going to start out by fluffing out our 28-inch tan or burlap colored door swag. You could really use basically any color because we're going to cover this guy up pretty good. And if you are new to door swags, they come to you just like this. The shipping process is not very kind to them, but basically you'll find a pretty heavy duty spine that runs down the center here, and then all of your pine ties squished together on one side. And so we need to basically fluff this guy out. And I start out by just grabbing some of these pine ties and moving them to the opposite side. That's step number 1. There's really no rhyme or reason to how you do this, friends. So just so that you've got equal amounts, basically, on both sides of that spine I showed you earlier. So if you're new to making door swags, friends, you basically use these pine ties to secure down your Deco Mesh and embellishments. So once I've got those essentially divided into the 2 sides, I'm just going to fluff them up just so that we can get down to them and add things in as we go here. So I'm just separating them out, standing a good majority of them on end, and kind of spreading them out somewhat evenly from side to side and center. Just waking this guy up. You guys, I'm so excited. It is time for all things fall. We'll soon be doing some football themed wreaths and swags. I kind of like to call it Falloween. Sometimes we'll be doing fall, sometimes it'll be Halloween. It is that time of year, guys. Seems kind of early. I know we're still in the middle of summer, but if you're a creator, you basically stay a season ahead. That way I can make sure all of my friends here are getting to design things and have their doors ready. All right, guys, we've got this guy fluffed up. It's basically even. It doesn't need to be perfect. Nobody's going to be measuring or counting your pine ties. And you'll want to, if you can see, the back of it is basically left flat. And so I'm going to move those things from side to side here just so that they're somewhat even in terms of how many we have on each side. But we're not going to fluff them out on the back because this is the side that will be laying up against you or your customer's door. Perfect. So now that you can see it fluffed out, friends, you can see that it's wider towards the top and then it narrows down in. It basically looks like an upside down, somewhat sparse artificial Christmas tree. And at the top here, you can see that they generally come with a loop that's also made out of that pine tie, and that's so that you're able to hang it. I always give that a pretty good tug and jerk and just make sure it's stable. Sometimes those clips that hold it in place aren't very tight, so I just make sure it's stable, and this one is. If it's not stable, then you can just retighten it up. And now that we've got this guy fluffed out, we're going to set it off to the side because it's time to cut some Deco Mesh. So again, friends, we're using two different types of 10-inch Deco Mesh for this Sunflower Beauty. So we've got the 10-inch burlap looking mesh and the 10-inch black and white buffalo check. And when it comes to door swag mesh pieces, friends, I don't really measure as I go. I kind of have gotten in the habit of grabbing my scissors and my Deco Mesh, and I literally just pull it up so that my arm is at a 90-degree angle, and I cut it off. As long as my arm is always in that same position, then that's going to give me nearly similar size cuts. This is probably 20 to 24 inches. Let's just see. It's 21 inches in length. And to start out with, we're going to cut 7 20 to 21 inch cuts of the tan or the burlap and 7 of our black and white buffalo check. If we need more, we can certainly cut some more, but I don't like to overcut. So we'll start out with that. So go ahead and cut 7 pieces of the black and white and 7 pieces of the burlap color at 20 to 24 inches in length, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got your Deco Mesh pieces cut, go ahead and bring your swag base back to your work area. And the next thing we need to do, friends, is to load our swag with our Deco Mesh pieces. Now, because we've got 2 colors here that we're working with, as we work our way around the swag, loading it with Deco Mesh, I'm going to alternate back and forth between the colors to give it a good variety. And something to remember, friends, this is just a recipe. Feel free to use it and tweak it as you wish and really make it your own. You're certainly welcome, to mimic this step by step or make any types of updates that you would like. Before we load that, friends, at the very end of your swag, you're going to see a long, every bit of 6-inch piece of pine tie. Just fold that guy in half. It's a little bit too lengthy for a standard door swag, and so we're going to fold that in half and give it a more natural looking flow here at the end. And when I'm loading my swags with Deco Mesh, friends, I always start at the top on one side. I work my way down to the tip and then work my way back up the other side. The first thing we're going to do is grab a piece of Deco Mesh. If you're not familiar with Deco Mesh, friends, it loves to fray. And so because of that, I prefer to make cruffles with my Deco Mesh as I'm adding them in because it really helps to reduce that fray. So let me show you how you make a cruffle, friends. You're just going to roll out your piece of Deco Mesh. You can see that it likes to curl in on itself, and we want it to be laying down curl side up. And then what you're going to do with both of your hands is just take those ends and roll them in just a time or two. And what that does, friends, is tuck away that raw edge of your mesh so that you really minimize that opportunity for it to fray. And then once you do that, you're just going to scrunch and gather it in the middle, bringing it into itself until you have what we call a cruffle. And so by cruffle, that's really just meaning a curl on each end and then a ruffle in the middle. I'll show you a second way that you can make this if you're not comfortable yet with mesh. But in any regard, you're going to take your cruffle. And again, I like to start up at the top on one side and work my way down and around. And we're going to add this into any 2 neighboring ties. So pinching that cruffle in the middle, just as you would if we were making a wreath, friends, you're going to add that down into your swag base. You'll find 2 neighboring pine ties, and you're going to give those ties a couple of tight twists. And you've just added in your very first cruffle. Let's do one more together and then we'll speed ahead. If you're still new to mesh, friends, let me show you an easier way to do it that you may like better. So again, take your piece of Deco Mesh, and I've just picked up the black and white check because we're going to alternate between the 2 colors. So again, take your Deco Mesh, curl side up. You're going to take one end and roll it just a couple, 2 or 3 times. Grab a chip clip or a clothespin and pinch that guy in the middle to hold that curl in place. Come around to the other end, do the same thing, giving it a couple of rolls, and then we'll walk the mesh into our hands. And so what you're going to do here, friends, is use your thumbs as stationary placeholders. So I'm just pressing down in the middle of that curl that we just made with my thumbs. And then I'm going to take my 8 fingers and just crawl this mesh, walking it back into my hands like so. And then I'll remove my clip, and we've just made our cruffle. Again, curls on the ends, ruffle in the middle. That method is easier for some. You can make your cruffles any way that's most comfortable for you. Now we're going to, again, our cruffles in all the way down one side and then come back up the other. So we're going to come right beneath the cruffle we just added a few moments ago. Go down to the base, find 2 neighboring ties that are side by side, and twist that guy in to hold it in place. Let's do one more together, friends, and then we'll speed ahead. I'm going to go back to my tan or burlap Deco Mesh, curling in my ends using the same method I showed you earlier, scrunching and gathering until I've created my cruffle. I'm pinching that in my hands. I'm coming right below the cruffle we just added. I'm finding 2 neighboring pine ties, adding our cruffle right down between those 2, and giving those pine ties a couple of tight twists to hold our cruffle in place. Just going to kind of fluff those cruffles as we go so that we don't vary one from the other. So what I want you to do now, friends, is go ahead and continue adding your cruffles all the way through your base. Again, just work your way down one side, come around that bottom tip, and go right back up to the other. And I'll meet you back here. We've now got our swag fully loaded with our cruffles, and it took exactly 14 of the cruffles. So we did 7 of the burlap, 7 of the black and white check. Each one was 20 to 24 inches in length. And we've added them all the way down one side and up the other. And you can see, friends, that in a swag this size, you don't need to worry about adding any into the middle, because that size of a cruffle will abut one another and it just flows beautifully. And what a perfect base this is going to be for any fall swag, any farmhouse themed or country themed swag. Super excited to create this, friends. So we're going to go ahead and use this welcome sign. This guy is just under 9 inches in diameter, and I know it looks like wood, but it's actually a really dense foam. And so I've added 2 mounting brackets to the back so that we can secure this guy down into our swag. Friends, if you are not familiar with mounting brackets, they are just 1 inch by 1 inch squares that have holes all along the top here so that you can add floral wire, chenille stems, zip ties, whatever you'd like to secure signs or attachments down. The back side's covered in really sticky 3M tape, and then I just run a bead of glue around that parameter just for a little bit more stability. But they're perfect for adding signs and embellishments into your wreaths and door swags, and you can get 100 of them for just a few dollars. I'll leave a link for those below if you'd like to pick up some for your wreath making stash. All right, friends, so let me set this off to the side for just a minute, and we're going to add this sign basically right above that center point right here. And so let's go ahead and get that added in. The first thing we need to do is just take our hands and kind of push these pine ties off to either side to clear the way for us to add that guy in. Again, you can use chenille stems, zip ties, or floral wire. I'm actually going to use 2 heavy gauge 18-inch length floral wire stems. These are great to add in signs when you're needing to poke through some pine ties and mesh, friends, because they're heavy enough to do so, and secure your sign down with ease. So the first thing I'm going to do, friends, is take this 18-inch floral wire stem and just gently fold that guy in half just to identify that center point there at the V. And then I'm just going to run that right through that mounting bracket and give it a couple of loose twists just to keep that guy from sliding out while we add it in. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the second piece, friends. So drop me a comment below, friends. Let me know if you are new to my channel or if you have been around with us for a while and where you watching from. All right, friends, we've got these added in, so it's time to add our swag down into our wreath base. And so, excuse me, our swag base. So I'm just gonna gently poke these ties right down through that mesh in the center of our swag, because we're going to wrap that around that spine that I showed you earlier on this swag. Now flip that guy over and make sure that your sign is centered and where you want it. That's looking pretty good. So now we can flip the swag back over and finish tightening down these floral ties. So I'm just giving them 4 or 5 tight twists, and you want these to be at about 80% tension, friends. You want it tight enough that your sign is nice and secure and not going anywhere, but you don't want it so tight that it recedes and pushes down within the swag, or you pop off those mounting brackets. And so once I've tightened it and trimmed off those excess bits of floral wire stem, I'm just taking my needle nose pliers and curling those guys back down into the wreath so that they don't poke us or our doors. All right, let's flip this guy back over. Looking so stinking cute, guys. All right, let's move on to the next step. So now what we're going to do is add a bow to the upper left-hand corner. But we're not going to make the bows too deep, friends, because we're going to be adding some of these sunflower heads right into the middle of those. And they're pretty big, so we need to give them lots of room. Go ahead and grab your ribbon of choice. I've got this black and white buffalo check 2.5 inch. And then I've also grabbed several 1.5 inch, friends, and I'm nearly certainly not going to use them all, but one never knows. We'll see. And so we're going to whip that together really quickly. I am going to zoom through the bow making process just to save some time on this video. However, I will leave a couple of links below in the description of this video that will teach you how to make hand bows in case you're needing that step-by-step guidance. We're going to get these bows made really quickly, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, friends, I've got a couple bows made, and I actually did the rough fluff and tail trim when I was making them and not during the time I added them in, which if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that's not typical. So now I'm going to take my first bow, and they're made exactly the same way, friends. I've got 2 loops and 2 tails of every single ribbon type, and I ended up just using 3. And I'm going to find a couple of ties that are near each other in the upper left-hand corner. And then I'm going to use those ties to anchor this guy down. And I'm going to tuck those ties back around in case we need them later for something. And we'll finalize this fluffing of our bow once we get everything added in here, friends. But so far, it's looking super cute. And then we're going to follow that exact same thing in the bottom right-hand corner. So I'm just looking for a couple of neighboring ties. A little bit trickier on the bottom end because those ties are shorter. And a couple of tight twists. And get those guys out of the way. I always like to fluff from the bottom and then coming forward, but you can sure do it however you like. And to give those tails some curve, friends, you just run them through your fingers, pull them straight up, and then let go. And as you can see, that just gives them a really good amount of bump. And as you can see, I've dovetailed those ends. All right, friends, once you've got your bows in place and semi-fluffed out, I'm going to go ahead and add 1 sunflower head right to the center of each of my bows. You can see I left a little bit of a gap. And when you work with your florals, friends, you'll see that the stem here on your floral is going to have notches about every 1.5 inches. And that's where the manufacturer has just given you a little bit of space to trim down your florals if you would like. So I trimmed them, basically I left about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of a stub there. And I always like to take my floral and just pull a little bit on where that's attached just to make sure it's not loose. Sometimes the manufacturers make those a little bit loose. And then I'm just going to take my glue gun and really give a generous amount of glue, about 3 full squirts there to that stem. And I'm going to press that guy right down in. The good thing about working with pine bases, friends, is that all of those plastic pieces on these pine ties and your Deco Mesh just really let those florals anchor down nicely. We'll fluff out those tails and loops a little bit more once we give this a bit of time to dry. So again, 3 full squirts of glue. We really don't want that guy going anywhere. Onto our sunflower. And we're just going to push that guy right down in there. All right, and now we're just going to let both of those flowers rest for a little bit so that they can finish drying. Something I like to mention when making swags and wreaths for that matter, friends, of course you want your piece to be beautiful as you're front facing, but you always want to turn it on its sides as well to make sure that they're equally beautiful and that they've not been neglected. So make sure as you're double checking things and looking for opportunities to add ribbon tails or embellishments or whatever you're adding into your piece, that you're checking the sides as well as the front. Just a little pro tip for you. All right, friends, let's go ahead and jump on to the next step. I'm going to now add in some mesh ribbon that ironically came from the Dollar Tree. I'll be honest with you, friends, if you are new to my channel, I very rarely recommend Dollar Tree ribbon just because it doesn't hold up well and the colors aren't as rich as what I prefer from other vendors. Of course, you can certainly use what you like, but I absolutely love, love, love this Floral Garden mesh ribbon from the Dollar Tree. It's just a really delicate cream colored, it almost has like a doily pattern, and it's great for farmhouse themed wreaths. And so what I want to do, friends, is throw in just a few ribbon tails. These are actually 10 inches, and then I've angle cut the ends instead of dove cut, or dovetail, excuse me. And I'm just going to run a piece of this Dollar Tree mesh right on top, and then I'm going to cut it off. I'm not going to angle cut it. It leaves too many raw edges. And then I'm just going to eyeball to find the center. Of course, you could also fold it to identify that. And pinch and pleat until it looks like a men's bow tie. And then I like to push it into like a gentle V. And I'm just going to sprinkle these throughout our swag. You can add in as many or as few as you would like. I just feel like it gives it a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of character, all the cute things. So again, I'm just laying that Dollar Tree mesh floral garden ribbon right on top of that black and white check. I'm pinching and pleating in the middle to create what looks like a men's bow tie, and then I fold it into a loose V, and I'm just going to sprinkle these guys throughout our swag. All right, I finished adding in the black and white check and that Dollar Tree mesh ribbon tails, and look how cute that is, friends. It really just gives it all kinds of character and whimsy, lots of depth with that black and white check, and lots of country, farmhouse, just a delicate vibe with that mesh ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Here's the tag if you'd like to find some at your local Dollar Tree. It's just from the floral garden section. It comes in a light brown, the cream color that we used, and also a sage green. And now I will tell you, they don't last long, friends. There's only 9 feet in each roll, so when you can find it, make sure you stock up. All right, friends, how stinking cute is this? So now what I want to do, our sunflowers are good and dry, so I just want to come underneath those flowers and fluff up those tails that we've kind of squished here as we've been working with it, and trim any of these ribbon tails that may need trimmed. So I like for my ribbon tails to be at different lengths, friends. I just feel like that gives it more personality, but you can certainly trim them as you wish. That is looking amazing. All right, let's do the same thing to our upper. It didn't get as disturbed, so it's looking pretty good. How stinking adorable. All right, friends, so the next thing I want you to do is grab your snips. Depending on the width of your pine base, you may need your lightweight snips, or you may need to bring out your heavy-duty guys. If you don't have snips yet in your toolbox for wreath making, I will drop a link below for you in the description of this video, so you can grab a pair if you'd like to do so. And what I want you to do, friends, is just kind of eyeball your swag, and any of these pine ties that are sticking out considerably, go ahead and trim off. We don't want them to be the star of the show. So just kind of go through and give a haircut here to those pine ties. You want to be careful not to cut anything that you didn't intend to. So take your time. So on my sunflower floral, friends, I actually have some of these pretty large leaves. They are actually about 4 to 5 inches in length. And I'm going to clip off a couple of them just to tuck behind my sunflower. And of course, we'll use hot glue to add them in. So I'm just taking my lightweight snips and trimming those guys off. And I like to dry place these first because, you know, once we get them added in, we're committed. Let's see. I'm just gently lifting up my bows here and finding a good place for that glue to grab. And then we'll come back in and glue. How stinking cute is that, friends? Now, you could at this point, if you wanted to, add a little bit of greenery throughout. I actually did grab a leftover stem from Hobby Lobby, and I thought about adding some of those pieces in, but I really feel like the leaves that we've added in from our sunflower look perfect. And so I am happy with it, and I am going to call this beauty finished. I hope you enjoyed creating with me today. Something new to my channel, friends. This piece is actually going to be available for purchase if you've enjoyed watching but don't want to recreate that for yourself. I will leave a link for this below in the description of this video. There is only one. But you're welcome to purchase that if you'd like to. And of course, that full supplies list will be down there for you as well so that you can recreate. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope you enjoyed making this with me. Stay tuned for the next tutorial. Thanks, friends. Happy crafting.